Welcome back to another episode of Harmonious at Lunch, the show that fuels your business success. I'm Brandon Gano, your host and guide through the world of harmonious business growth. Today, we're unlocking powerful strategies with industry experts to help your business thrive. If you're a business owner, entrepreneur, or executive, you are in the right place. Join me and our incredible guests today on the journey to clarity, growth, and success. It is time to revolutionize your approach to business. Let's dive in with another episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Welcome back into some more bite-sized business advice. And today's episode is a big deal. We are talking about consciousness in business and what that means, what that could mean for you and your business, taking you to the next level, or maybe keeping you stuck if you're not aware of it. So we're going to dive in here. I have a special guest, Charley Johnson. Welcome to the show, and thank you for being here.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Charley, your title is a Chief Consciousness Officer. We all know what consciousness is, but I've never heard this title or this topic in the context of business. So why don't you walk me through the overview of what is this and why are we here today?
Well, in your intro, you talked about clarity. Speaking now, you talked about how most people know consciousness. I would kind of disagree with that. Quite a few people don't, right? They're always using the mind. The mind's the middleman. But what you said is consciousness is everything. Businesses, you, me, everyone have been using consciousness. We came from consciousness. We are consciousness. It's basically like we've had a blank check and we've cashed it for $100 because we've constantly been using the mind. So the chief consciousness officer is just going to be someone who jumps into a business and brings an amount of clarity, an amount of neutrality. Neutrality is the big thing here. The world's never been so divided. It's never been so conflicted. Republican, Democrat, Catholic, atheist, right, wrong, up and down, race, color, creed, whatever it is. That division has been just aggressively pushed over the last couple of years. A chief consciousness officer brings in neutrality. It allows both sides to understand that they're just the heads to the tails of the coin. For the side that thinks a Republican that thinks the Democrats ruining the world, the Democrat thinks the Republicans ruin the world. That simple phrase sounds like everyone understands that. But when you bring that to their attention, it's a seed that's planted. The universe is the best gardener in the world, and they can't unhear it. It allows them to start to be aware that they're just like the other side, just to kind of bring a little bit less division and less conflict.
Yeah, I like this. And I'm thinking through it in the context of business. I mean, or in the world in general. I mean, everything you said is so spot on, and it's only getting worse by the day. For this person in a business context, a chief consciousness officer, give me a sense of what you see that role being like. What does a day-to-day look like in that person's life?
Well, they report to the CEO. They don't have authority over other divisions, programs, marketing, sales, anything like that. They're in all the C-suite meetings. They're in all the meetings for mid-level managers. They're in with the customer service. They're at their watering hole talking. They're an individual that, because of their clarity, because of their consciousness, because of the power of their consciousness, the neutrality brings a power to that individual consciousness that just brings up, it's like a rising tide brings up all ships. They allow people to, they increase exposure to answers. They increase the solutions. They increase the ability for individuals to get along. They help HR start hiring higher consciousness individuals. They allow the C-suite to see the blind spots. They allow them to see their biases. They allow them to see why they're upset with each other, why Susie and Ed can't get along. They let customer service be more authentic to themselves, because the bullshit meters of employees, when a manager comes up and says, we really appreciate what you're doing, or this is what we're going to do for the organization, the employees, because of their newfound clarity, they know what is said, but they know what is felt. They know what is said is bullshit, and they know what's really going to happen is real. And they're so sick and tired of that miscommunication, as they would put it within the business world. They just want authenticity. They want truth. And I think a chief consciousness officer, I know a chief consciousness officer with all the organizations I'm working with now, they just bring the consciousness up. They break down the walls. They break down everything that keeps an individual from being themselves, from talking about certain things they've experienced, talking about certain things they've done. Do you remember a movie by the name of, it was called The Cooler with William H. Macy?
No, never heard of it.
It's the movie of casinos. Casinos hire coolers, If there's a hot roulette table, if there's a hot blackjack table, they will have an individual that comes in with really low energy, just a simple dude, simple guy, simple girl. They'll come in and sit at the table and completely disrupt the energy. They'll sit at the roulette table, grab a drink, and just lean against the table as if nothing's going on. The guy will crap out. So the whole movie is about William H. Macy being the cooler. And every time someone's hitting it big, someone's making a ton of money in a certain casino, they bring him down. He kind of just Eeyores down, sits at the table craps out, and he goes home. So in regards to that, a chief consciousness officer is the polar opposite. When they walk into a room, when they're in a meeting, when they're at the watering hole, when they're just being who they are, being in a meeting, doing emails, talking to the CEO, talking to whoever it is, they're the polar opposite of a cooler. They bring everyone up. The neutrality this individual, this male or female, brings allows the individual to open up, right? And they want authenticity. It's amazing how many people within an organization have done something, seen something, heard something, done some type of spiritual retreat, and they have no one to talk to. They have no one to understand it. Maybe if they told their community or they told someone at work, they were thinking they're crazy, right? Now, consciousness in this regard, when it comes to a CCO, it's not spiritual. It's not a wellness program. It's not meditation. It's not mindfulness. That has been done for the last 20 years, right? And my only question in regards to the wellness programs is, how's it look? How's the world look? How does business work? How's the division and conflict within these organizations, right? Because these wellness programs, the individuals behind them mean very well. They're incredibly intelligent. They know what they're doing. But these wellness programs, a lot of them were implemented by HR because of pressure, and the CEO signed off on it because they didn't really want to bring it out of their budget, but they felt kind of forced to do it, right? Again, that inauthenticity of why they did what they did is felt by the employees because those wellness programs, they probably were attended well at the beginning, but then they kind of died off. And again, we've done them for 20 years. Meditation, yoga, Tai Chi, all of this stuff was very heavily pushed in the last 20 years. All the marketing, all the TV, all the 60 Minutes, all the businesses, all the organizations, we all talked about it. It was a very big deal. And for a good reason. Look at the world. Look at business. Look how divided we are. Look how conflicted we are. Look at the wars. Look at companies. Look at individuals. There's a massive, massive shift happening on this planet. Humanity's never seen it. That shift is consciousness. So it's not in regards to a wellness program or meditation or mindfulness. It's about the source of what's going on. There's a natural force that takes a 22-year-old and turns him 23. This same natural force is raising the clarity of everyone on this planet, all 8 billion people. When that clarity happens, we as humans don't like to deal with things. So everything we've ever suppressed starts coming up. So the C-suite in these organizations are starting to think different thoughts. They're starting to lack confidence. They're starting to fear certain things. A lot of things they've never felt, thought about, or dealt with in the last 20 years. It's scaring the hell out of them. So they react differently to employees. They react differently to the company. Both sides, employees and executives. When we start to feel something different and we fear, do we open up? No, we restrict. We contract. We double down in our beliefs. We double down in our control. We double down in trying to think that if we just put our hands around someone's neck and hold it tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter, that control is going to help this when we're actually just killing things off, right? A chief consciousness officer brings that to the attention. It allows the individual, the executive, the employee to open up what's going on. Oh, I'm thinking different things. I've never felt this fear. I don't know where these thoughts are coming from. Well, an individual like me who's been with a teacher for 10 years, who understands consciousness, who understands clarity, who understands things at a very high level, can let them know that this is what's happening. This is the shift. This is consciousness. This is natural. It'll pass. That type of knowledge to someone who's never felt or thought certain thoughts is the most disarming thing in the world. It's the biggest relief you can ever imagine because they're starting to feel things that they don't even want to share with their spouse or their kids because they feel like that's going to make the fear grow in the family, within the household, within the company, within the organization. Maybe if they tell their boss what they're feeling, maybe they won't be an employee anymore. We've got to open up onto this because everything we've ever suppressed has built the world we're looking at right now. So there's a natural shift of consciousness that forces it to the top, and it's not comfortable. Me knowing what I know, the teacher, the guidance I've had, it still sucks. I would never choose this. I would never wish this upon my worst enemy. But a chief consciousness officer starts to bring into the world what consciousness is. And you talked about this at the beginning of the conversation that many people know, but consciousness in a very simple form, the great metaphor is the wise fish swimming through the ocean. Sees two young fish and says, "Hey boys, how's the water?" The two young fish look at each other and say, what's water? That's consciousness. The brain does not create consciousness. The brain is just the middleman. More people are really starting to understand, even neuroscientists, neurologists, they're starting to understand the brain does not create consciousness. It's just a middleman. Everything is consciousness, everything physical and non-physical. Consciousness has been within business this entire existence, but no one's paying attention to it. It is an untapped, infinite, vast resource. And we're using this. We're using the middleman. We're using the mind. The same mind that created the problem can't solve it. We've got to tap back into consciousness. We've got to let customer service evolve. We've got to let mid-level managers and VPs and executives understand that they have access to consciousness, because that's what they are. And knowledge is structured in consciousness, which means the more you tap into consciousness, the higher your clarity, the more access you have to knowledge, solutions, problems, less wasted time, just all around. It makes everything better.
Yeah, I mean, everything you're saying makes complete sense, and the path to get there is, probably a whole different episode that we could unpack. But what I am curious about is finding this person in corporate America. I mean, someone like you said you've been doing this for 10 years, you've been trained, you have a teacher. You can't hire anybody off the street to do this. So like, what are the requirements, and what does that process look like to really find and implement a CCO in a company?
Okay, so I've got 20 years of business owner, 260 employees. I ran the Pay It Forward Foundation for many years, and then I've got the 10 years with my teacher, right? So you're going to look for an individual like that. It's going to be rare, but there are individuals like that. Most people who spend time with a teacher like I did leave the world behind and just go meditate, become super spiritual. That's perfectly fine. The wellness programs and finding a CCO and bringing in a male or a guy or a girl that's incredibly spiritual and doesn't have a business background, that's not going to be who you're looking for, because that's what the wellness programs were, right? You can see by my passion, in a sense, kind of my aggression, my business background, nonprofit background, that combination allows me to speak their lingo, right? It allows me to understand what they're going through. I'm not just going to walk in and say, okay, you're super stressed, the P&L's this, or you got quarterly this. Just meditate it off. Meditation's not going to solve that. Mindfulness is not going to solve that. Yoga is not going to solve that, right? I really do understand. I've done all the modalities. I've done modalities that make no sense to the laws of physics. I get all of it at a very, very clear, high level. What I would like to do, and what I appreciate of individuals like you allowing, is for us to talk about this, getting more exposure, because the first organization that does hire this person, this position, other companies are going to wonder what they're missing. And you know as well as I do, they're going to jump on board. So I'd like to get hired on full time. And then I'd like to help other organizations find this individual, because it's not going to be a loose fitting, white clothing, mala bead wearing individual that doesn't like capitalism and thinks money's for the birds. That's not going to work. It needs to be someone with a business background who understands clarity, understands consciousness, and understands how we need to merge those together. Now, as much as I'm starting to get exposure for this in the last month because of people like you, I've had quite a few people cross my path who say, I can't believe I didn't think about this. This is the position I would love. And they're entrepreneurs. They're business owners. They're conscious capitalism. The Whole Foods guys, conscious capitalism, right? There are quite a few people in the conscious capitalist world. Some of them would be great for the chief consciousness officer position. They're coming from it from a unique perspective. I don't think they have as much training as I do with the teacher and the clarity and understanding consciousness, because they always talk about conscious capitalism, not consciousness. They're two drastically different things. Mm-hmm. But I do love to see that moving forward. Whole Foods has been all about it. What's his name? John Mackey in the book, and conscious capitalism, that's been around for 10, 15, 20 years. Again, still look at the world. So there's a lot of people talking about conscious capitalism, but still look at the world. We are more divided than ever. We are more conflicted than ever. So there's still something missing. And what I think that's missing is an individual who can bridge that gap more. Because there's a lot of CEOs and company owners that really are attracted to conscious capitalism. It's something they push. It's something they put hashtags on. It's something they think their business is about. But I don't think they truly understand yet what consciousness is and how to allow their customer service, mid-level managers and VPs tap into that vast resource. Because conscious capitalism is just one step removed, in a sense, from normal business with a plaque on the wall that says, we're a little bit different, we're a little bit more conscious. Great. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I don't have a dog in the fight. I'm not Republican or Democrat. I'm not this or that. This is how I'm seeing things from a very clear perspective. And I think that's why this position is so key. So I'd love to continue to get exposure. I appreciate you doing that. I post a lot on LinkedIn. A lot of the stuff I talked about on LinkedIn, I actually don't talk about what a chief consciousness officer is. I talk about what it's not. Because people hear that word and immediately think it's meditation, mindfulness, spiritual. Consciousness is not spiritual. It's tactical. Consciousness is everything. It's not all of a sudden you tap into consciousness when you go down the spiritual paths. Consciousness is everything physical and non-physical. What we need to understand is this world is full of different levels, just like grades. A lot of people are going to go from 3rd to 4th grade. A lot of people are going to go into junior high from elementary. Some are going to go into high school from junior high. That's the other thing a chief consciousness officer will understand, is they know very quickly where that individual is. They will help them raise their consciousness and clarity at that level. And what I say by that, level is not better. We don't get mad at an 8-year-old for being in 2nd grade. And we have a 16-year-old in 10th grade. That 16-year-old is not better than the 8-year-old. They're just at different levels. One's in 2nd, one's in 10th. We don't see them as better. We only just see them as different. And we're not getting mad at the 8-year-old for believing in Santa Claus and only caring about the crush he has and wanting to go into 3rd grade. Understanding different levels of consciousness as well within an organization. Why two people clash usually is because of level of consciousness, not because one Republican is Democrat. That's the structure, the constructs, the conditioning we have. Oh, she's liberal and he's conservative. They just don't get along. That's fine. But when we bring consciousness, the understanding that both sides are just heads and tails of the coin, and someone in the organization can politely understand in a very neutral way that the level of consciousness for these two individuals probably is not going to work, right? Do you ever hear anyone talking about levels of consciousness? No. Even in the spiritual realm, they're not talking about it. Dr. Hawkins and Ram, there's a few books about levels of consciousness and what it means. But imagine what else is there as to why a educated, intelligent individual is Republican and an educated, intelligent individual is Democrat. There's conditioning in how they were raised, but how can we not see that both sides are doing the same thing? How can we not see that all the religions are headed up the same mountain? Again, this is all in a sense, when you talk about it out loud, people are like, yes, yeah, that's right. I understand that. It's not anything revolutionary, but they're missing the point of, yeah, I get it, but I'm still Republican. Yeah, I get it. And I'm still Catholic. And I think atheists are crazy. Yeah, that's fine. I'm not trying to change beliefs here. Really, I'm not. I'm just bringing to the awareness that the level of consciousness is why there's so much conflict and division on this planet. Why these individual sides cannot see they're doing the same thing, because each side believes the other side's ruining the world. So how do we change that? We've been doing this for thousands of years and wondering why the world's never been so divided. Luckily, consciousness, this invisible force, is naturally, in a sense, dissolving that, because it's making everyone shift in their clarity. Because when we're left to our own devices, you see the world we create.
Yeah. I mean, would you say it's really about just pausing to understand I am talking to or disagreeing with another human being that is made in the exact same way that I am, and I just need to understand where they're coming from and find some neutral ground. I mean, there's so much more to it than that. I'm not trying to oversimplify it, but
No,
I
it
feel
is
like
that
we're
simple.
just in a. It is.
Brandon,
Okay.
it is. Brandon, it is. Like Einstein, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. There's no need for intelligence here. There's no need
Oh,
for
good, because I
report.
have none. That's
No, because neither
fantastic.
do I. Neither do I. I'm not educated. Like, I just ran into a business at 16 and loved it. So it's not about overcomplicating this. What you just said is what everyone says. But to each their own is the first thing thrown out the window when everyone puts pressure on them, or a Republican and a Democrat don't get along, or Trump's elected and you're a Biden guy, right? So what you said is so so kind and so polite and so correct. And I hear it from both sides. Everyone has great stories of people they love. They all say, we to be the change you want to see in the world. Gandhi. They all say the right things, like you just said. But again, look at the world. 60 Minutes says it. CNN says it. Fox News. They all say the same thing.
Well, we're
Why?
still attached to our beliefs and
Yeah,
agendas, and that has
consciously.
to be let go.
Yeah, consciously or subconsciously. And it doesn't really need to be let go, because I don't see Catholics anytime soon becoming atheists and vice versa. And I don't see Republicans uprooting their things and becoming a Democrat. And I really don't see a lot of people getting to the point where I am, where I'm neutral and I don't care about either side. All we can do is just bring to their attention that both sides are basically doing the same thing. Mm-hmm. And we can shift that level of awareness. So the seed is planted, which will shift naturally to clarity. And there will be at least a subtle level of difference of conflict and division. But again, I hear it, Brandon, whether it's you or someone else, they say the right stuff. It is the right thing. It's about pausing. It's about being mindful. It's about understanding that the other side loves their kids and they love their family, and they're just trying to do what they need to do. Again, we have all talked about that for thousands of years. Look what's happening. We have to change the narrative. We have to bring consciousness into this. We have to bring something that reduces the conflict and the division. Someone has to point out very simply, like we're doing right now, that a Republican and Democrat are just heads to tails of the coin. My question is, where did the coin come from? A Catholic and an atheist, same thing, heads to tails of the coin. Where did the coin come from? And where's it headed? Again, very subtle, simple questions that any person I've ever crossed paths with, no matter their level of consciousness, I know for a fact shifts them. I can see it in them. So imagine bringing that to an organization, from the CEO down, from the C-suite down, from the executives down, to the watering hole with the customer service people who are need a little bit more authenticity within the organization. So that's what a chief consciousness officer does. And they would be in there day in and day out, doing whatever was necessary, talking to whoever needed to be talked to, traveling with executives. Someone like me who has a sales and a marketing background could help with marketing, could help with sales, could help HR hire different individuals, could help the CEO be more strategic moving forward. It's just, I think it's the most crucial thing since a CTO was hired for technology when technology took over.
Yeah, I mean, like I said before, it makes sense, and when you look at it that way, it really is a strategic business decision. But the distinction is you're not saying it's like the wellness programs where it's just a woo-woo thing. Like you're relating it to actual outcomes in business, which that person needs to be grounded. They need to have a business background like you're saying.
Yep.
And that's the tough part. And I see the path forward, and I really hope this message gets out to people who actually take action on it. I just see that as your biggest hurdle at this point is having companies adopt it, but then be able to find that individual like yourself. And there's just not enough of them out there, which time will change, but I hope you lead that change.
Yeah. And that's what we're doing. And well, if there's not that many out there, then someone better get on this quick.
Yeah.
Cause I'm ready, because I can't wait to get back out with a team and an organization, small, medium, or large, and really start changing this, because it's going to be absolutely incredible when that happens.
Yeah. And you said it multiple times. Look at the world. It's needed. It's now.
Yes.
Now is the time. So
yes,
Charley, I love it. I thank you for being here. You mentioned your LinkedIn. You talk about what this position is not. And I'm sure a number of other amazing topics. So I'll put that on the screen. Anything else you want people to do after hearing this episode?
Just look into consciousness, look into your own bias, look into your own blind spots, look into your own conditioning. Understand that the individuals on the other side that you disagree with, dislike, or think are wrong, they think the exact same thing as you. I'm not trying to change sides for you. I'm just saying be aware of that. And then if you have questions, you've got my link on the consciousness on LinkedIn. I'll give you my email and cell phone. And if there's organizations out there that are looking into this position, message me. I'd love to help. It could be on a consulting basis, or it could be full-time, but I'm ready.
Awesome. I love it. Charley, thank you for being here. For those of you watching, listening, the links, everything down below in the show notes, so go check that out. We'll see you on tomorrow's episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Harmonious at Lunch podcast. Make sure you subscribe on whatever platform you're on, and we want to invite you to join us in the Small Business Success Facebook group, our private group where guests and listeners come together to grow your business. We want impact-driven entrepreneurs who are ready to go to the next level in this group so we can all share ideas, collaborate, and grow our businesses together. Go to whatif.com/group, and we want to invite you to join today. See you on the next episode of Harmonious at Lunch.